Hi, welcome. This is Dr. John DeMartini. This is one of the most amazing and inspiring shows that you can listen into. If you want to be on the edge of your seats, if you want to open up your heart, if you want to expand your mind, and you want to meet incredible people, stay tuned because you're just about to experience a transformative radio show that will change your life. And you're listening to the Dr. Pat Show that's coming up right next.
Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. Talk radio to thrive by. Powerful, inspiring, and coming to you live, bringing you stories of people like you and me, busting through and living life full out. Get ready to dare to wonder what your life would be like if you knew you could not fail.
Hey, everybody, welcome. It's so great to have all of you tune us in and turn us on. I'm going to be chatting here for a little bit with Benny and with Jacob while we get ready to do our show. And I got an email this morning. Okay, two things. Can I talk about two things with you guys?
Sure.
Okay. So I go into the store, the grocery store. You know the tough time I had last week, Benny, with Olivia Newton-John's passing?
Yes. Or 2 weeks ago, I believe, wasn't it?
Yeah. It feels like yesterday.
It's still there. It's sensitive, yes.
Still there. Because when you go into the stores, she's on the cover of like almost every magazine you see. And I was struck by the cover on People, talked about the fact that she was about love and courage. And that's true. And so much of it. And so much so. And I've often wondered this because today's show for all of you, just to tell you what it is we are going to talk about today. I have a very special guest, Marnie Goldman, joining me here today, who has an article that got my attention. And the article that got my attention, or the message, let me just call it the message that got my attention, was this message that had to do with something that I've alluded to for years. And yet, and I've kind of joked about it a little bit, but there's an article that came out, social media use tied to increased depressive symptoms in adults. Now, what do you need to know about this? And what is it that Marnie is bringing to the table to talk about? So the reality is that we are having some things happen in the world that Marnie is just tied right into. And if you go to Peace Love Marnie and you go to that website and you take a look, what is it that we can learn by shining a light on mental health that matters? Because when you go see what Marnie is doing, you'll look at her podcast, you'll look at her spiritual life coaching practice, but you'll also see right there, mental health matters. It does matter. It does matter.
But you got to take care of number one, yourself first, right?
Exactly, right?
Okay.
Because Benny, look, you've heard me talk about my mom's suicide. You've heard me talk about, at a real surface level, you've heard me talk about my relatives. But what's going on today, and I said this, I think, on air, I said, if I was in my teens or 18 or 20s, let's say now, I don't know that I would make it through the social media pressure, because I don't know that you can go to many events, except I will say my ping pong event. I'm just going to say my ping pong event last weekend. But many events where people can just not put down their phones, can just not be part of social media. But we're starting to see more and more celebrities walk away from it, right? We're starting to see people say, I just took down my social media account. Who is the latest with 49 million, what do you call it? I can't remember who that was that recently.
Subscribers, hits, whatever.
Yeah, whatever they are. 49 million of something's a lot of peeps.
Yeah,
I just said, I can't do it anymore. I just can't do it anymore. But even if you're not that person, even if you're not a celebrity, the addiction of this is so important. Now, Marnie, we're trying to track Marnie down. is somebody that absolutely understands peace, love, but also understands the power of mental health and how it matters. You know, I've learned so much about what it means to be in great state of mind. And it's not always easy. You know, Benny, I got to tell you, it's a couple of things. I was commenting about Olivia Newton-John because, you know, I realized last week or 2 weeks ago what a real loss that was to me. And I played back in my mind over and over again. Is there anything that any of us could have done differently to support her? Is there anything that might have made a difference? And I know now that what makes a difference is not to let us forget how absolutely amazingly she fought for things and fought to bring a new way to approach cancer. I mean, I watched this. I watched Dr. Darvish. And Benny, you know Dr. Darvish, right?
Yeah, long-time friend of the show. Mm-hmm.
Long-time friend of the show, saved my life. When I went and found Dr. Darvish through the Angel Lady, and I walked into her rooms, I didn't know anything. I thought I'm going to go in, she's going to look at me, she's going to give me something to take, and we'll be done. But that took me on a 10-year journey, and every aspect of that 10-year journey that I went on had more to do with my mind, had more to do with how I become to be in this world and what we need to do. Now, what I want to do is I want to take a short break. But before we go to break, I want to tell all of y'all is that you heard us right. This is true. This will be our last week of shows on KKNW in the 10 to noon spot. It will not be our last week of shows on transformationtalkradio.com. And if you go to transformationtalkradio.com, you'll see we've made some changes to our website right up front, where the minute you scroll down, you're watching live TV. You're watching this right now. But we will be moving the Dr. Pat Show. And at the moment, it'll be Monday at 7 a.m. and Wednesday at 7 a.m. According to some of the other things we're doing, our Wednesday at 7 a.m. will also feature Ellen Stewart, Pushy Broad from the Bronx, and Dr. Georgia and Dr. Sharon. So, you know, just keep in mind, we're making some changes, but we're not forgetting all of you all. What I want to do is I want to take a short break now, but I want to say this. Losing people and grieving, it's all part of mental health. Addiction, and I'll tell you, I'm not just preaching from an academic book. I will tell you, addiction in the form of addiction killed my sister, my moms, my stepmoms, my other two sisters. And so this idea of being addicted to social media, it is for real. It is for real if you're a 10-year-old and they gave you a phone or they gave you something that you're going to be on the social media with, and you got yourself an account, and people are looking at the color of your hair, how you painted your fingernails, and trust me when I say to you, this does damage self-esteem at a very young age, and it continues way into the later years of your life. We're going to take a short break, Benny. When we come back, more about this topic. And I got to ask y'all the question. If I gave you a challenge and I gave you a 7-day challenge, because I don't believe in 12-hour, I don't believe in that stuff. But if I said to you, no social media for 7 days, turn off all your apps. I'm not taking your phone anywhere, but I mean 7 days, no social media. Yeah, including this show. Raise your hand, y'all. Raise your hand out loud right now. Go ahead, do it. Come on. How many? How many we got out there? All right. When we come back from break, we'll give you a count. Benny, let's go to a short break. We'll be right back, everybody. Everybody, welcome back. It's so great to have all of you tune us in and turn us on. Thank you so much for this. We are going to, just for those of you that are tuning in, Marnie is going to be joining us at the 11 o'clock. So we're just going to move that to the 11 o'clock. And just so you know, make sure we bring you an in-depth conversation, because this is really an important thing to ask yourself. You know, what have we found in the research now what have we found about social media platforms? And let's just talk about all of them. You know, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, you know, but what do we not know about them? You know, all of us really know, Benny, at this point, that the pandemic has created for all of us.
Right. And Pat, can I just interrupt on just 1 second? We all can see your screen.
Okay,
There we go. Much better. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean,
I know you like to look at your notes while you're doing your thing. We all need them.
okay, but I'm going to take this opportunity to talk about the share screen. So here's what I love for you guys. Did you see? If you saw the share screen, let me give you a sense of what you looked at.
There we go.
Here's what you looked at. And I wish I could share the screen again and show you. You guys have heard me talk about technology ad nausea, right? And so what you got to see there for a minute, Jacob, can I do the share screen again? Okay. I want to just show you all this. I said, it says share sound, but it ain't happening. Okay.
Oh, there we go.
All right. So here's the screen. So this is what Benny's like. I got to tell you, you're sharing your screen. So what are you saying? Please don't watch Netflix while you're doing the show, Pat. But here's what I want to say about this. This is our upcoming guest. And when you guys hear me talk about technology, this is what you do not see. You don't see this beautiful interface that does everything for us, including allows our hosts to put their information in, look at the notes in the show, all of this. This is like the coolest thing that you could have in front of you. And Benny, thank you for pointing that out, because now when you hear us talk about our technology, there's a lot we're talking about. There's everything back here from, if you really want to get excited, look at the shows. We have completely automated every show on the planet that has ever been done with this. And not only have we done that, but now you're really going to get me excited. And I'm not going to show you too much because I am going to get a message from Jessica and Linda like in a hot minute. But everything is automated, everything from automating any kind of advertising we're doing to bonus items, to contents, to media libraries, to categories. This is the technology that we're upgrading. And I'm glad I accidentally showed you, because you all now got a sneak peek of some very proprietary information that's not proprietary anymore. But what I love about it is that in the world that we get to live in, we get to change and we get to do things differently. And one of the things I did is I brought up, Benny, the first show I ever did way back. Can you remember the way back? Can I tell everybody what the first show was, the date of it?
I'm going to guess it's 2003.
It is October 2nd, 2003. So if you're starting a show, but you don't think you're going to be on for 20, thank you, Benny. That was so good.
That was just a good guess too.
But you don't think you're going to be on for that long. And you come out of the gate. The show is called Crust Busting Your Way to an Awesome Life. My very special guest was this guy named John Goddard. Why? Why John Goddard? So you all know the Chicken Soup for the Soul books. So if you go back to 2003, who's John Goddard? He was the first story that Jack Canfield wrote in the Chicken Soup for the Soul. And I just thought, I've got to talk to him. So here's what I love about this journey, Benny. And Benny was part of this, and so was Eric Krema, and so was John Schwartz and Tacey Trump. When I came out of the gate with this, none of these producers, not a one, not even Jeff, who owned the network I was on, no one came to me and said, you have a brand new show, Pat. I don't think you're going to be able to get these guests. And I came out of the gate knowing nothing about nothing and not knowing what I didn't know about anything. And that's really the basis for why we started Transformation Talk Radio and how we started Transformation Talk Radio. Because my journey was in a world where people like Benny and Eric and John Schwartz at the time, remember John, Benny?
Yeah, he still works for the station, just remotely.
Oh, does he?
Well, in another market. We'll get to that another day.
In another world. Yeah. And Eric Burris, and all of the people, right? Not a single one, including Casey Trump, said to me, I don't think you can get them. Now, I'm going to give you a throwback, Benny. What football player did we interview that I brought a t-shirt to Philadelphia for that was 4 sizes too small, but the dude actually put it on. We actually have a picture of it and of him and me. And I sat there in that Philadelphia Eagles, right, with my buddy playing a game.
Mm-hmm.
What football player did I interview that is now making his mark big time for the Detroit Lions?
That'd be Deuce Staley.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Applause.
That's what I'm here for.
Now,
he was a good dude.
Good dude.
Good interview. Yeah.
And I mean, if you watch any of the football docu-series or whatever you call them that they're doing now, the one they did on the Detroit Tigers, I'm like taking my money and I'm betting on the Detroit Tigers just from that event. But I watched their coaching style and I watched him. And you know how you meet somebody, Benny, and you know, I mean, my gosh, you've been doing this 20 years. How many people, right? But let me ask you this question. You've been doing this 20 years for me. We've done a lot of great shows. We've done a lot of great shows together when people didn't show up. But are there any guests or people that we've had on that stand out for you, for the Benny?
Wow. I mean, there's a few we've chatted about, but he's definitely one of them. And also Ricky Williams. Remember we interviewed him. He was another player for the NFL and his Seeing Light.
Yep.
I'm only doing sports references because you just landed on Deuce.
I'll give you a hint. It was an in-studio event.
Oh, the dude that
Oh my God.
Yeah. What was that dude's name?
Remember that show we did in the studio though, Benny? Like yeah. Benny and I, and we'll believe me, we'll get you the guest name. But he was a psychic, but a transporter psychic. So what does that?
Yeah.
Yeah. What that means is he would bring things out of him, right?
Literally.
I mean, literally
out from inside of him.
And what I want to say is spiritually, he did tours. I mean, the whole thing. I did an event in Hawaii with him, but we did an interview in the studio. And Benny and I were in the studio, and across from Benny, there's places for you to sit. And we're all in there. Everybody's ready. And we're talking. We're just talking stuff. And then all of a sudden, it's like silence happens. We look over at him. And he's just like not moving very much, but he's like, his head is moving. Like, I mean, it was just incredible. And, you know, the next thing we know, literally out of his mouth area came gemstones, jewels, I think a spoon. I don't know what it was. Now, here's what we want to know about this. Here's what you should know about this. Many people look at this stuff and they say, oh, okay, you know what he did?
I got it. Okay,
I know. Go ahead.
It was Michael Shane.
Michael Shane. Thank you.
Yep.
Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people look at him and say, oh, well, he just digested this stuff and brings it up. Great. So you all can explain to me how you bring it up and it has no liquid on it. Remember that? There was no liquid. It just
freaked out. I freaked out. I don't know. Well, at first he had these reactions. I'm like, do I have to call 911? Do I have to run and get a doctor? Like, and I couldn't leave my post. And we had a huge studio full of people. It was intense. I had no idea.
It was very intense. It was intense. But I get to look back at this. And you know what's interesting for me, Benny, is we went through many, many shows as crust busting your way to an awesome life. I'm not kidding. I'm just saying to everybody right here, many, many shows with that. We have interviewed people that talk about rekindling their life, Cher Holton. I mean, some of these people, Scott Hagwood. I mean, I went back and I looked at this. You know, one of the most interesting people was Linda Schaefer, who was a photojournalist for Mother Teresa. And I started to look back and I thought, oh my God, And you know what I realized, Benny? Is I have the same excitement today to do the show and other shows that I did then. I may even have a little bit more of an excitement because honestly, do you remember how many binders I used to bring into the studio just to do a show?
I still have a couple in the back from our recent winners. We're supposed to keep them. So they're in the back too.
So this is why we were talking about this today, because I've gotten more emails from you guys asking me if I was retiring. See, that's what my friends asked me. So I wanted to take today to explain what's happening. And I love that I accidentally shared our technology. So here's what's happening. I bring on a lot of people, and yesterday, my God, that gut-wrenching Gina Gilgray, just gut-wrenching story from Gina. And one of the things that you can know and you can discover is when the soul taps on you, it is very hard to explain how Benny is sitting in that seat for over 20 years and doing what he's been doing. And many of us, Rob and Brenda, right? I mean, they were like the pioneers here that I know of. I don't know that there's anybody else that I could point to. Maybe there are people that came before them. Patricia Raskin was another one. Carol Lieberman was another one. And back in the day, in 2003, and I just want to say this to y'all, back in 2003, for women to be doing talk radio was clear insanity. And you remember when that executive from Jones Media called me in for a meeting about syndicating my show? I don't know if you remember this, Benny, but the dude calls me in like 2004 or 5, maybe. You know, somebody had talked about the show. So he calls me in and oh, you want to syndicate your show, right? And I go in and I'm like, I don't even know what that means. I mean, that's not why I signed up for this. I dial a wrong phone number. I then find KKNW, Benny, Eric, and here we are, right? And he said to me, you don't know anything about formatics. You don't know how to run a show. Remember, I hit up John Schwartz and I said, what is formatics? I don't know what that is, but the guy won't syndicate my show because I don't do formatics. And John says, I'll work with you. It's how to get in and out of a show, how to do that. Like when you open up a show, like say who you are, introduce your guest. And I had already had a signature question, so it was okay. But I remember this. So here's what the guy does, right? From Jones Media at the time. He says, I'm not going to give up on you. Go ahead, find out what it is, but I am going to give you a name of this guy. He's going to be your coach. I said, okay. I meet with the guy once at KKNW, Benny. One time. And I sit down with him before the whole thing is all renovated. And we're outside the studio. And he's going through and he says to me, God, it's got to be 4 or 5, 2004 or 5, maybe.
Yeah, it was in the first couple of years of this.
It's in the first couple of years. But it was, I mean, this was so foreign to me. And so he sits down across the table from me and he looks at me and he says, why do you interview so many people that you like? I said, okay, well, what do you mean? He says, yeah, why? I mean, everybody you have on your show, you praise them, you raise them, you hold them up, you talk, you introduce. He says, your introduction of people I've like out of the box. He said, that's not going to sell. And I said, what do you mean? So this is me. What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? My favorite phrase. I said, I don't understand. What would you want me to do? He said, you need to bring on people you don't agree with. I said, okay. And what do you want me to do with that? He says, you're going to debate and argue with them. And I said, the closest I can come as I reflect back to anybody I've ever argued with on air is my buddy Pete Siegel. And so here's what you all, there's a punchline to the story, y'all. There really is. Watch. Here it is. Get ready for it. So I looked at this guy. He said, I'm not doing that. He says, you're never going to get syndicated. I said, you know, I don't even understand what you're talking about syndicated. Look, this is what I'm called to do. This is the network I want to be on. I'm not interested in, I mean, send me a show that you want me to be like. And he sent me a couple of shows, and I can't remember who they were. And I said, you know what? I called him and I said, you know what? I'm going to make up his name, George. I said, George, you're fired, because I'm not doing that. Now, fast forward to where we are today. I'm going to make an announcement. It's just the week of announcements. So here's what's happening in my world. In a survey we took, large majorities of people know who the Dr. Pat Show is and Dr. Pat. Very few of them know much about me. And that's been done on purpose, because that has never been my passion. I don't even have a website. Hello. And if you go try to find my website, it is not done. So what does that say about somebody? Well, media people would say, I'm losing it. They'd be like, you're just crazy. Yeah, we don't understand. But that has never been my passion. My passion is to do what Benny and I have been doing, and now Jacob and the Transformation Talk Radio producers. This is what we do. And what we've created is a way to help other people do that. Are we going to change some things as a network? Yes. We are now officially television, and we will soon become an agency, because we are doing so much more. Are we going to build a platform of technology that will put these shows on Roku? Yeah, it's in the plans. It's always been in the plan. But why? Is that because we want to be big deals in town? No, we have never changed our mission. Not in 20 years, not since crust busting. It is to raise people up, to honor the work they do, to shine a light on solutions for all of you all out there that want them. That's why at the 11 o'clock hour, talking about this addiction and social media, look out. But here it is. Jones Media, George, who I fired, you are going to get your wish. I got to make the announcement, because I didn't realize how full circle I've come, Benny. In order for me to do some different kind of shows, I cannot do them on AM, FM radio. Okay, why? In the years Benny and I have been doing this, he has rushed to the yellow button more times than you can imagine.
Well, I don't know about that.
Well, I don't know.
There's a few other shows in the past that I had to do it quite often. Not yours.
But now they just slip out like it happened the other day, and it slipped out like you couldn't even hear what it was said.
Yeah, right? We've always believed in, like, if you're so passionate about something and it just kind of slips through the crack, that's exactly for the reason. But if we have someone who's purposely trying to make the
like every other word is F, you got it.
Yeah, we gotta.
That's like when Benny just drops the whole thing. But here's what's happening. And it probably won't happen till January, what we're planning it. Guess who asked me to do a show with him and to be his counter opposite part? Now, Benny, you know this. The last person I was going to do this with was Pete Siegel, and then he passed away very suddenly in December. And I had not entertained that. Now, I do a show with Mark Anthony, 4 o'clock on Thursday, one of the most popular shows I've ever done. It's called The Psychic and the Doc. And as a matter of fact, we're trying to get that show on KKNW, but there's not a time slot for it. And so 4 o'clock, Transformation Talk Radio, every Thursday, The Psychic and the Doc, right? Following that show, very shortly, Jacob, fasten your seatbelt, because I don't think this is you, but just fasten it anyway. Jacob, this is for you. Who do you think, this is like a man person, who do you think asked me to co-host a show with him and sort of be an alter ego?
Yeah, I know the answer, but I'm not sure you want me to spoil it. I feel like this is kind of a big reveal, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to reveal it. I'm going to reveal it because it ties in. Mike Murphy and I are going to do a show. I love this idea. Now we're in the beginning stages of formulating it. Right, Benny? You're laughing. Like Benny, right?
No, because Jacob texted me too what it was. And I wasn't gonna say it either. I
love it. When Mike emailed me, I loved listening to Mike's show. Now, you guys don't get it on this AM/FM network for a very good reason. And by the way,
we got him on, just not the show.
Yeah, and many of you didn't even get it on Facebook, because Mike talks about things that most people think about. It's not disrespectful and it's not angry. But I want to give you an example. And I hope I don't get booted off of a network for this. Back in the day, when we were talking, and I'm not even going to say the word, when we were talking about a solution for a certain global deal that was out there, there was the mention of a particular drug, ivermectin. Now, here's what I want to say to all of you all. Benny and I have done many shows on Lyme disease and chronic Lyme disease. And let me give you all the news flash. Whatever you think about what's going on with the current pandemic, Lyme disease has exponentially increased and people are dying, and we are not talking about it because the government will not pay for anything for chronic Lyme, nor will they even recognize it. And I don't care if you take me off the air, Facebook or YouTube, you Google this yourself and you'll find out. But our journey on this network and in the state of Washington, I am very proud of all the shows we did on this. Thank you, Dr. Darvish, for putting yourself out there. And by the way, those of us that have put ourselves out there have faced multiple, how should I say it, audits by the states we live in over and over and over again. Why? Because we decided to stand up for something and say, look, if you don't want to address this in the state of Washington, and I'm going back, y'all, to 2005, and you could look up Lyme Talk Radio, and you can go to our website, Lyme Global, you could see this stuff. But I traveled the United States on this and became an advocate. And because of that, in the state of Washington and beyond, we were able to raise the bar and shine a light and save lives. And it was controversial. And we came out of the gate and we had conversations that really looked at why is it that doctors are getting fired? Why is it that children are suffering? Why is it that nobody can figure out what's wrong with Avril Lavigne? Hello. You know, look at folks.
That was random.
She's Lyme disease.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Okay, well, nobody
Now I know. No one's out the battle.
Nobody knows it.
I guess. My bad.
Well,
I didn't know that.
here's the point. I made a decision that I have to become more of the person I was during crust busting Benny. You got that?
Got it. Yep.
Benny and I did these shows, wasn't on the video yet, but man, if you look at some of the crust busting shows, if you look at the conversations, if you look at bringing the only complaint that I have ever had on KKNW that went to Eric Krema, like a real complaint, you know, like an official, like Dr. Pat's a whack job kind of thing. Do you know what it was about, Benny? It was about a Lyme disease show I did with Dr. Ronnie. And they called me out on the carpet and completely destroyed her reputation and said she wasn't a naturopath. And out of 20 years of almost doing this, Benny, the many things we've talked about, that's how you know that you're talking about something important, is when somebody can go out of their way, get to Eric Krema, and then Eric Krema calls me in the office for a principal conversation like you're in school, right? And what did I say to Eric? I think I just looked at him and said, oh, well, because back then I didn't know how else to do this. So here's what I realized about myself and the network. Everything that we've done before, every tier, every effort that Eric Krema, Eric Burris, Benny, anybody else put in, Rob and Brenda for really opening up a giant door, Conscious Talk. When are they on now? Again, when is Rob? Where's Rob and Brenda?
Fridays at 7.
Okay, Rob, Brenda, whenever you want to give that up, call me. Hello. Thank you that they're still on, because the gateway that they opened up and the gateway that the genius behind Alternative Talk had for creating this network, we have to make sure it doesn't go away. We have to make sure. And by the way, outside of Transformation Talk Radio, this is, well, not even Transformation Talk Radio. KKNW is the only network I am aware of in the United States on AM, FM dial that has this kind of programming. There might be some out there, if you know what they are and you tune into them, let's say in Chicago or something, let me know. Now, I'm not talking about Oprah. I am talking about an FCC regulated with, they got a tower somewhere, like, and they got a site map which shows you where there's, as a matter of fact, I was in the car and I listened to the show with Dr. Georgia and Doc Martin on the AM dial last week, I think it was. But here's what we have to make sure of for all of us. You're going to hear us talk about what we are going to do to make sure we don't lose this. I gotta give a shout out to Susie Hutchins for a minute. Susie, oh, I'm sorry, I just outed you right there. Every so often I get a card from Susie. Every so often she'll email me. She doesn't call into the show much, but I hear from her and I hang on every word she says. And she has been supporting this show for gotta be 20 years or close to 20.
Yeah, long time listener for sure.
Long time. She will send a card and she will drop a couple of bucks in there. And I'm sorry, I have to say this. She contributes and has been contributing to the livelihood of this show and keeping it going. Here's what we are doing now. We're not going to waver from who we are. We're not going to change what we do, except we're expanding it. We will always support our flagship stations like KKNW. And as a matter of fact, I am getting ready to set up a number of meetings with Eric Krema to show him that technology that all of you got to see a little bit of. Why? Everybody has a calling. I've never been competitive about this stuff. As a matter of fact, if you want to host a show with us and you're not a good fit, I'm going to send you some other place. But I will say this, we have taken every email all you all have sent us, everything you've ever wanted us to talk about, and we have done our best to do it. And as a result of that, in January of 2023, you will see us launch individual channels that represent what you want. This is what you asked for. You're like, when are you going to put a channel up that's going to talk about spirituality and God? Okay, how about women's issues? Oh, wait, how about men's issues? I actually have a gentleman who wrote a great book on men, everything about men. It's a fantastic book. It's like about 5 inches thick. It's great. Interviewed him. We're going to be putting up a green channel. We're going to be putting up a business channel. We're going to be putting up a sports channel. We're going to be putting up a political channel. We're going to be putting up an LGBTQ channel. We're going to be putting up a cosmos channel. That's everything about the cosmos. Yes, UFOs. We're going to be putting up a psychic channel. So you see, where am I going with this? We're going to be putting up channels that relate to what you all said you wanted. Why? I don't have a good answer. All I know is that I wake up every day when everybody says, are you retiring? I am not retiring. I am simply moving to a drive time that I'm so excited about. And the bottom line is I have been waiting for the drive time hour in the Seattle area. And I'm not happy Rob and Brenda left that time spot, because I am happy they didn't leave. These are the people that carved the pathway. Patricia Raskin is someone else that she and I started on Voice America. And I will tell you, Voice America gave me a shot to do a show. And now myself and Patricia are considered pioneers in digital radio. We have been doing podcasting since 2003. So that's what I want to say to all of you. When you look at who we are and the changes we make, I just want to get out to you and say, there's a reason behind it. I'm not going anywhere. But what I'm called to do now is to make sure that we can produce and keep shows like this on the air. Because as listeners, I am not sure that you all are aware how vulnerable AM/FM stations are right now. So vulnerable that I was asked about 2 weeks ago if I wanted to buy a multi-channel AM/FM radio network on the East Coast. 10 years ago, if you'd have asked me, I'd have been like, hey, Eric Krema, do you want to do this with me? Let's do it. Today, it's not my focus. My focus is to provide whatever we can provide in Transformation Talk Radio. And believe me, we have got a great team here to do it. You know, you've met Jacob. I don't know if you've met Lydia. I don't know if you've met Micah. We are probably going to bring on an additional 2 to 3 other producers to help with our launch. You're going to hear me talk about how much help we need for you to spread the word about our crowdfunding. We're probably going to put some commercials and talk to Eric Krema about how to get the word out, because we're not just expanding. That's just so not what this is about. It's creating something called the Transformation Network, which has everything that one would need to transform their lives to create a better world. Whether it's an article you want to read, or whether it's a show you want to watch, or maybe it's a summit that we're putting on to teach and educate. We actually have, Transformation Institute that's part of this. Now, you all may be saying, wow, that's a lot. No. Jessica, myself, and Linda, for over 10 years, along with Kim and Chris, some of the original folks here, slowly we've been building it. We have an extraordinary technical team, Merrick and Nick. What Merrick has done in technology started from Oliver in Germany. Why? I get asked all the time, why? And I never really understand that question. Now I just say, everybody has a calling. And I used to wonder why I'm doing this. I used to ask myself, my friends would say to me, you've lost your mind. You're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars, in this period of time, in a 20-year relationship. How much money do you think a person pays for airtime? And I never thought about it, and I never looked back until we had to put a business plan together this year. When your why is so perfectly at peace with who you are, you don't ask those questions. The answer is, why not? Why not do it? Why not provide all of you the best audience on the planet with exactly what you need and ask for? And I will say this, there was a channel that we did not have in our venue to launch. There was 2 of them that we were going to wait to launch, and we moved them up. One was a channel on equity, diversity, and inclusion. And we don't have a name for it yet, but we are going to ask our folks. The other one is a political channel, and we do have a name for it. It's called Politica, the female version of that. And these were 2 channels that, when we did our original planning, they weren't in the top priority. The green channel was always a priority for me, and a channel for women, always a priority for me. But here we are sitting today, and here's what I know about what we are doing. People don't ask me why that often anymore. They now ask me what and when. You're going to hear lots more about this. We're going to need your help to really provide this. And you're going to hear about something that's called AI for the soul. Now, that idea came on a plane Jessica and I took at a late night coming back from a music video shoot we did, I think in 19, with John Legend and his nephew on a fantastic song. And it was surreal for me to even be invited there. And that changed us. And we got on this plane and we came back and we looked at each other. I don't think there was anybody else on the plane. They looked at each other and I said, what are you feeling? And she said, well, what are you feeling? And I said, I feel different. I said, I feel like we have been reminded of what we have been called to do, to create something will last long after I'm gone. And I said, we need to create something like AI for the soul. We need to be able to take everything we've learned, all of these fantastic people that are doing great work, and we need to put them in the hands of people. We kind of looked at each other and I think Jessica asked me, what don't you want to do? And I said, here's what I don't want to do. I don't want to be a Google. I don't want to gather information from people about how old you are. I don't want to be looking at your emails to find out what you're looking at. I don't want you to go to your website and because you're a part of what we're doing, have some advertising pop up for something you're looking at. We're going to ask you to tell us how you feel. And when you do, and you say, I am feeling blue, what will happen is you will be able to select from a device a range of people that work with the Transformation Network that you are going to be able to contact directly for help. You're also going to be able to get a message. You're also going to be able to hear messages. But it's not going to be because we are it's not going to be because we're out there like fishing for who you are and what you do. It's going to be because in that moment you're going to tell us. And then after you tell us, that event will be deleted. Why? Why not? That's what this has turned into in a 20-year period for us. And yes, if you hear me say it and say it over again, I don't know if I'm going to write a book. I don't know if that's something that I'm called to do. But I'll tell you, through Benny and through the work we'll continue to do together, through our host, through our production team, whether it's Jacob, Lydia, Micah, Jessica, Rowan will be starting on Monday. It doesn't matter, Linda, Kim, Chris, Merrick, Nick, Shahid, it doesn't matter. All of those people are behind the scenes. Now, I want to go full circle and end with this. Oliver was the guy that responded back in 2009 when I put the most bizarre job post on a freelancer site. And basically what I said is, I already committed to Chris, I was going to start a network. And I already was smart enough to know it had to be automated. And I wrote the most ridiculous job post you could ever see about what I needed. I needed a musician, a broadcaster, and I had to hook up telephones, Within an hour, Oliver from Germany contacted me. And he is the guy that built the original infrastructure, which we still use for that technology blooper that I showed you. And why am I telling you that? Here's the why. I stay in communication with Oliver. He no longer does programming. He is now a counselor and a therapist in Germany. And he said to me, I want to thank you, Pat, because I went to school and I did this because I saw what this kind of positive change can do for people. See, that's what we're hoping for all of you. You don't have to love every show that we have on. You don't have to just love our websites because they're changing. But man, I hope you love the many ways that we hope to help you. That's the end game for me. That's been the end game for Benny. That is the thing we're going to continue to do. We'll always partner with people like Peggy Wilms for the book that she has out there. We'll always work with networks like KKNW to say, hey, can you benefit from our technology? We'll always do things like that because our mission never changed. This is us creating a better world, one listener at a time, one viewer at a time, one conscious mind at a time. That has never changed. That hasn't changed when it was crust busting. It's never changed. And you all are super important. That's why it was so important for us in making the decision to move from the 10 to noon spot to some other place on the network. And we've done that. Monday, 7 a.m. next week, I don't know the date. That's when we kick off our show. That's when it happens. But it doesn't happen without all of you. And it doesn't happen with the support we've gotten from KKNW, our sister network, our flagship network, or any of the other 100 networks we are on. Lastly, I have got to give a shout out for Sean. Sean in Australia. Sean has an amazing network in Australia. I can't even keep up with his distribution. But about 18 years ago, he reached out and said, I'd like to play your show here. We send Sean shows every week. We are on 45 stations in Australia, AM, FM, and we're distributed all over the world thanks to him. Why? Because his answer is, why not? All right, we're going to take a short break, Mr. Benny. When we come back, we're going to talk about this struggle that all of us have. You know, I get these things on my phone. I try not to do much of it. I have to tell you, I get criticized a lot because I don't engage in social media. But there's a very good reason. I do believe in it, but I also know what addiction feels like. And I know that when you're addicted to something that is more powerful than heroin, somebody has to talk about it. That's our next show. Benny, Jacob, let's take us out to a break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.